Things are speeding up. We were expecting a hurricane next weekend. It looks like it's going to be a Thursday, Friday thing. A lot has changed since yesterday, enough for me to make this video, so here we are. There's a lot of stuff that we need to talk about because a lot of stuff has changed. I've pulled together some historic tracks from all the major Gulf Coast hurricanes over the years, and we're going to look them over and see if we can't learn something. It's actually seeming much more likely that Florida will enter a state of emergency. It's likely that many bridges will close down, and I know what you're probably thinking. You're like, Jack, this is a complete 180 from what you said yesterday. And that's because the likelihood of a hurricane forming has gone up significantly since yesterday. 24 hours in hurricane years is like 10 years. Everything can change in 24 hours. We've seen 30 millibar drops in 24 hours. Something that wasn't really anything that we needed to worry about turns into disaster in 24 hours. In the past, that has happened time and time again in the Gulf of Mexico. We don't see more frequent rapid intensification really anywhere else in the world besides the Gulf of Mexico, because the conditions can be so favorable for development. Nothing as of right now is for sure, but the models are all starting to agree on an eastern Gulf Coast, potentially panhandle for landfall. We have steering currents to look at, we have influxes of moisture, we have very warm water, we have very favorable conditions, so we're going to dive into all of it. And then at the end, I'll guess what I think is going to happen, because everyone likes a good prediction. I am Jack Tenney of the Juke Squad. I'm a born and raised Florida man, and I am not a weather expert. I've been advised by my lawyers to let you know that I'm a weather enthusiast. If you want a weather expert, go check out the National Hurricane Center. The link is in the description. Is it still possible that things don't develop? Of course. Right now, it seems highly unlikely. We have bumped up to a 80% chance of cyclone formation over the next 7 days. Yesterday, I said by the end of the day, I thought it was going to be at 90%. We're at 80 now. It's 3:35 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If this storm goes tropical before entering the Gulf, in my life with conditions like these, I don't think I've ever seen a tropical storm form in the Yucatan and move into the Gulf and not become at least a Category 2 hurricane. Something I want to say before I look over these models and storms is that, one, I'm looking at only major hurricanes that have made landfall in the Gulf. Many storms enter the Gulf and don't become major hurricanes. But when learning about storms, we want to learn from the beasts, from the storms that set records. There's not as much to learn when it comes to weak systems besides what it is that really weakened it and what comes into play. We don't really have anything to weaken this storm, so if it collects itself, finds the center, and reaches the open waters of the Gulf, we're going to have to watch it closely. That's what we're doing now. So yeah, before anybody's like, oh, you're looking at all the major hurricanes, I think the most that we can learn is from major hurricanes. So let's dive in. I made a major Gulf Coast hurricanes folder, pulled together some stuff that I found. Look at that, 8 major hurricanes in the last 7 years. We do not want to join this list. All right, we're gonna start with Hurricane Ida. These are in no particular order, by the way. We're just gonna look at storms that entered the Gulf. See, here we go, 65 miles an hour, 45, 65, 80, 85, 100, 140, 150. See, it happens so fast. 929 millibars, crazy how quickly it went from a tropical storm to a major hurricane. Here we have Hurricane Ivan. Now, Ivan, I remember vividly. I was only 10 years old, but it became a major Category 5 out in the Caribbean, and it was hell-bent on destruction since inception. One thing to take away from Ivan is that hurricanes can really only get so strong before weakening at least a little. They ramp up, they get strong, but holding as a Category 5 for as long as this storm did was impressive in itself. It hit Cuba and land at the Yucatan, and it weakened, but it still caused significant damage. Then we have Hurricane Charlie. Charlie I remember very vividly, same exact year as Ivan. I remember Charlie mainly because I evacuated for it. It was the same year as Ivan. The cone showed a direct hit to my house in Tampa Bay area. Given I was 10 and we were watching The Weatherman on TV because YouTube didn't even exist, we decided to go to higher ground, especially even considering I had 2 younger brothers. I remember leaving and having to leave my house because of a hurricane, and it was just crazy. Then it slammed Florida 100 miles south, and we had pretty much no damage at all. Harvey's a hard one to forget. That was probably one of the most catastrophic floodings that Texas has ever seen. It was easily some of the worst flooding I've ever seen in my entire life. It went from a tropical wave to a tropical depression, and then boom, snapped into a hurricane, and Category 3 makes landfall in Texas. This track kind of paints a picture for what could happen here if the conditions remain favorable. Here's Idalia. Last year, statewide damage. Didn't really do anything over the Caribbean, and then 2 days later, after moving into the Gulf, Category 3 hurricane makes landfall in the Big Bend area. This is a picture of Irma, which was a horrible storm. We went and did relief in South Florida for Irma, but we're not really gonna learn too much from this one because it did not pass through the Yucatan Gap and didn't really sit in the Gulf for that long. Thought this was funny, so I wanted to show it to you guys. There's Florida right there, in there. Michael, okay, Hurricane Michael. One of the best hurricanes for waves that I've ever surfed where I live. Also a very scary situation for the Panhandle, as it caused a ton of damage to not only Florida, but Georgia, Alabama, and the Carolinas got pretty smoked by this thing. I'm not sure how many people were out of power. You can look it up. It was a lot. Another storm that was a tropical depression, October 7th, became a tropical storm. October 8th became a hurricane. And between October 8th and October 9th, moving through the same part of the Gulf that we're about to go through, turned into a Category 3 hurricane, intensifying into a Category 4 the very next day. This track is scary because it is coming from the exact same place, going in the exact same direction with kind of the same time frame. This is only 2 weeks from now. I mean, it was 6 years ago, but September 22nd, entering October, we are entering pretty scary time for the hurricane season. Sally track, you know, not much to see here besides the fact that it went from a tropical depression to a storm to a hurricane, and it wasn't even in the Gulf for that long. Hurricane Katrina, one of the scariest hurricanes and the most damaging hurricanes in all recorded history. Hundreds of thousands of people displaced from their houses, went from being a tropical storm to a Category 5, hanging out over the Gulf of Mexico. One of the most horrible hurricanes in all of history. Now, let's look at what we're seeing with this storm now that we've gone through the hurricane's darkest history. All right, everybody, manifest that this storm is not going to join the list of storms of some of the most catastrophic in history. Let's pray that we don't have a major hurricane making landfall anywhere in the Gulf Coast. That is our hope. Hope for the best, expect the worst. That's kind of just what we have to do in this situation. We're not going to worry about that. We're not going to worry about the 50% chance of cyclone formation over the next 7 days out off the coast of Africa, because that is not as imminent as the storm that we have in the Caribbean passing through the Yucatan. All right, let's go look at the windy model. This is a fun model. Everyone likes to look at it. You can get the app on your phone. It's pretty accurate within a couple of days. Gets a little bit wacky after 2 days when it comes to its predictions. This is an adorable little storm that we see south of Mexico right now. All right. Tuesday, Wednesday, looks like we're going to move into the Gulf. Strengthening happens in the Gulf of Mexico. Where it'll go from there, we're not sure. We don't have an eye wall yet. We don't have a defined center of circulation yet. But it's looking like things have sped up. That's something that I really wanted to mention. We were expecting this thing Saturday, Sunday. Now it's looking like Thursday, Friday. So our time frame has shrunk quite a bit since the last time I filmed a YouTube video, so you guys can pretty much from here on out expect an update at least every single day. I'm going to go to Mike's weather page because he has it nice and laid out to where I can go and click on things and check on stuff myself if I want to. I like Mike. He's got a pretty level head. We see a lot of convection. We see a lot of blowing up. A lot of scattered showers and thunderstorms. This is going to kind of, over the next 24 to 48 hours, we're going to kind of understand where the middle of this thing might be. It looks weird to me. I don't like it. It's kind of scary looking. It's just a bunch of blobs right now. I don't know why. They look like kind of scary looking blobs. We have this big shear. How quickly this thing moves down towards the Gulf of Mexico will kind of tell us how quickly the storm is going to make landfall. We're watching that. We'll look more into that tomorrow. GFS model. Oh, that's scary looking, huh? Whatever. Low pressure moving into the Gulf, becoming a hurricane, dropping all the way down to 935 on the GFS. That GFS is painting a worst case scenario, which we're not going to accept right now because it's too soon, right, guys? I'll switch to the. We'll just run through all the models. It's taking time. All the models are really starting to agree on a North Florida East Gulf landfall. So that's kind of the main reason that I'm making this video. I really can't reiterate enough how important it is to watch hurricanes or watch any tropical systems when they move into the Gulf Coast. Gulf of Mexico's warm. All I know is we need to keep a close eye on this thing, stay informed, stay updated. I'll have updates on my Instagram. I kind of just wanted to go through a history lesson with you guys today because there's not that much to talk about yet. There's a bunch of blobs, thunderstorms out in the Caribbean, and we're going to watch them because if they start spinning and it needs to look like a hurricane for it to be a hurricane, is also what I've learned in layman's terms. We can expect development from this, I think, once it moves into the Gulf, but I think the next 24, 48 hours are going to be very important in terms of how strong this thing's going to get, because if it can get itself together before moving into the Gulf, it could be very dangerous. If it remains a big blob, we might just see a big tropical wave move up the coast. We can only hope for the best. Appreciate your guys' time. I appreciate you guys liking the videos and staying informed. Love you all, and I will see you tomorrow for a new update.